It's John and James. It's John and James.
I was enjoying that, mate. Don't speak.
In the
Just
house. In the house. Yeah, it needs a little voiceover, doesn't it? A little rap.
Yeah.
Hey.
Got to build that anticipation. It's like
We need
John
to
and
build
James
up.
in the house.
Welcome, everybody. How are you today? It's Monday. It is the 20-something of February, isn't it? What are we on? 24th?
Well, let me just hold on a second. I believe it's the 24th.
24th of Feb already. Life flies. It's your birthday next week, this week, soon. How old are you, James?
No. We're not going
one of those people who are not into your birthday thing.
No, you get past a certain age. But let's not be those guys that go, oh, time's flying by. Oh, it's like it's March already.
It's so, James, when you get older, though, isn't it? It wasn't like that back in my day. Back in my day, time stood still. I don't know if it's because life gets more stressful that it goes quicker. I'm not sure. What it is.
I don't know. I haven't got the answer, mate. Possibly we'll discuss that.
You better have the answers, James, because it's a big topic today. The meaning of life.
Maybe we'll talk about it.
The meaning of life today. So, yeah.
We're going weighty issues today.
Quick recap. We will be talking about next episode. We will cover the post that we just did on land ownership. So, yeah, prepare yourself, get ready. If you got questions for that, we'll cover that on the next episode on Wednesday at 1 p.m. live, because it seems that, you know, quite a lot of people are interested in the subject, so probably worth digging in and seeing what the hell's going on. You like a little bit of history, don't you, James?
I'm not overly excited by just that land ownership piece. I think maybe it's
what's exciting you, James?
It's not.
Come closer.
To be honest with you, mate, it's not really filling me with a lot of excitement.
Really?
But it's highly nuanced, and there's other stuff around it. I think this is a little bit more.
It tickles me, James. A bit of land ownership.
It does, but then you're just a little bit strange, mate.
I'm a very strange guy. Yeah.
But I'm sure the way you talk about it will excite me enormously.
Oh, I'm going to turn you on with land ownership. Trust me.
Tell you what, I'm going to be a proper esquire by the end of that conversation. I will be fully owning my own land.
Yeah. What do we need? One of those crowdfunding things, don't we? To buy some.
Yeah, GoFundMe.
Yeah, it'd probably be like a big garden, won't it? It would just go to pot. You know, I've only got one plant here, and it's like dying. I don't know if I've.
You've not got green fingers, then.
Is it good to put land in my hands? I'm not really too sure, to be honest.
Maybe not on that evidence, mate.
With the rich people, I don't know.
So I just pay for a gardener. Pay for a gardener.
Imagine this dystopian future of just like dead trees and just everything's grey. It's like, oh, John owned all the land.
Yeah, it's like God. I Legend. The Hastings version.
He was starting a revolution. All the plants died.
No. But the plants take back over, though, don't they? That was the thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. I shouldn't have a house plant. That's the problem. I'm trying to bring the outside in, and
so
this
actually,
thing doesn't
it's the
want to be inside. Yeah,
reverse thing of that, isn't it? That actually, if you sort of take the human element out, nature finds a way and it comes back. Discuss.
Yes, you are right.
There you go.
So we should ban house plants, James?
I'm not sure that's where we're going with this, but I think I've just nailed the meaning of life. So, end of podcast. Mic drop. There you go. Let nature.
The meaning of life.
Let nature reclaim.
And you want to ban house plants, James.
I want to encourage house plants.
There's going to be a lot of people in the over 50s who are not going to be happy with you, James, with this.
No. I'm going to get out my pinking shears. There you go.
Pinking shears? What the hell are they, James?
Secateurs. There you go. There's another one.
Secateurs? I don't know. I'm from London, James. I don't even know what a garden is.
Yeah. It's like the equivalent of a sledgehammer in London.
Seriously.
Secateurs. You can snip
things. Okay.
Yeah, we might be straying from the subject.
Slightly straying, right? We'll get onto this big subject. It's a Monday. People are feeling fatigued. They're at their desk. They're doing their emails. They've got their sales reports. They're managing duties, people, stress, problems, trying to build the business, marketing. And then they're thinking, what's the point?
What am I doing it all for?
Or what is the meaning of life? What is the crux of it, James? Survival is obviously important, isn't it, to start with? Probably was for a lot of human history, survival played a big part in meaning, wouldn't you say, James?
I would say so. I would say so. It's kind of, it was interesting actually. I was reading something the other day of, we're talking about sort of Neolithic man and the sort of the way in which they would congregate in groups, and then sort of over time with kind of farming and then these sort of populations growing, of how men and women's roles change within those communities as a result of farming. So they no longer had to go out and forage for food. The food was all there, so that all these roles, the gender roles, started to get kind of divvied up. And whether it was a kind of a natural progression, again, we've talked about the physical strength of men doing certain jobs, with women being more creative and more, whatever your perspective is on gender roles. And we know that's highly, highly nuanced, but these things would sort of evolve out of the situational awareness of things that needed to be done, and this natural kind of selection of what roles were then assigned, or who would be more appropriate to do certain things. So obviously within the male groups, some guys would be better at doing certain things. In the female group, some women would be better at doing other things, whatever. But it just seems to be that this kind of growth of necessity brings about, what people then perceive as their purpose.
Yeah, 100%, James. So what you're saying is that Neolithic women were, what, in the kitchen? Is that what you're trying to get at? And the guys were out there doing their thing?
Well, obviously it's child rearing. I mean, this is the fundamentals of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
That it's like the continuation of a species. There had to be caring for the child, and the nurturing, protection, predation was a thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, disease. There's a lot of things that we've created. We've potentially created a problem for ourselves that we're having to fight against through sort of, modern society, pollution, etc., etc. But, they had real things that were threatening their lives on a daily basis that they had to be mindful of. And that was the learning that, certain things they knew would kill them, and other things would protect them, and, like making fire, etc., etc. So
would we say that we have to have spare time to think about meaning?
I think we can create the time, can't you? If that's something that you want to really address, if you can just head down and nose against the grindstone and not think about anything, just being, just doing, and then comes a time when actually it's like, well, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And that can come at any time in your life. And hopefully it comes at some point where you actually go, why? And taking a pause and saying, you know what? This doesn't make sense why I'm doing it. But so for me personally, I'm a great one of just kind of doing all the time, and it will get to a point where it's like, I can't do this anymore. And then, or something happens, some sort of cataclysmic event occurs outside of your sort of normal sphere, because we go through these routines every day. And until there's a pattern interrupt, that sometimes you just keep going.
Yeah.
And it's quite hard to say, I don't want to do this anymore. Or just one day go, I'm going to really think about this. Usually it's some external factor, isn't it, that kind of comes in and forces you into that situation.
Yeah,
Would
I
you
just
agree, or
wonder
would
if
you
it's a new
disagree?
phenomena because we go back to, like we said, the old ancestors, maybe like before farming, let's say, and maybe they just never. Who knows? Do you think it ever crossed their mind? Obviously, there was like the ancient Greeks, philosophers. But it depends how far you go back. When you're a nomadic, species, and can you imagine? Just put yourself in their mind, James. Like they don't know anything in terms of literature, knowledge. You could just be
How the
walking
universe
down
works.
the universe. You just walk in there and then you go, what's that? It's like a saber-toothed tiger, and
It's like every day. It's like,
you're
whoa,
just like, what the
whoa,
fuck?
whoa, what
Like imagine you're just swimming in the sea. You have no concept of anything.
Yeah.
Great white shark pops up. You'll just be like, what the fuck is this? What is going on? It must be like. So it's hard to comprehend nowadays because we've preempted everything, haven't we? We know what to expect, what it is. It's all quite
And we kind of
formulaic
take it for
in
granted as
nature.
well
Yeah.
to an extent. And it's like, and there's an acceptance of things. It's like, well, why is that called that? Why is a shark called a shark? And
Yeah.
we've named
Why is it?
entire species.
David Shark, probably.
David Shark. But it's again how we make sense of the world. But I mean, we're still discovering new species and new things. But like, it gets to that saturation point where there's so much knowledge, so much you take for granted,
Yeah.
and very difficult to think about what it was like before we had words even to make sense of what was around us, apart from sort of grunting and pointing. Which
Linguistics is just an absolute fascinating subject, isn't it? The fact that we can just produce this sound and understand what
and no instinct,
we
and
mean.
sometimes when you think about, you can actually create even the written word. You don't have to have all the letters of that word for you to be able to identify what word that is, or the letters can be mixed up, but your brain fills in.
Yeah.
So we're taking these cues from all over the place. And it's that learnt behavior, and it's just instinctively knowing, well, I know it's not spelt right. It looks a little weird, but I can fill in the gaps behind it. So actually, and it's within seconds, milliseconds of recognizing something.
Yeah.
So that we can function in the world.
It blows my mind. My wife's multilingual, and anybody who can speak multiple languages just blows my mind. I'm always just in awe. If you can speak more than one language, I'm just like, oh man. You're God. It's just amazing. It's just because when I listen to other languages, when they're speaking fluently, it just obviously it's so foreign, isn't it? Especially probably English people are the worst at it because English is so prevalent.
It's an international language, isn't it? English.
Yeah, so we're bloody lazy.
And if we talk quietly and slowly enough, everybody will clearly be able to understand us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when you're on holiday,
I speak really slowly.
How much is it? What?
Why didn't you understand?
Yeah, the English. We are. What a funny bunch, isn't it? And it's
we're great, aren't we?
Obviously it's not even the most popular language in the world, apparently.
Yeah.
I'll have to check the stats on that. But again,
Mandarin is coming up, isn't it?
For business, even certainly. like we've just talked there, James, linguistics is a big part of trying to understand the meaning of life, isn't it? Because if you can't express it, it's probably beyond words. Potentially there might not be words to explain it, but that's the only way, obviously, in terms of body language or art, language, we can try to convey what we think.
Yes.
Or is meaning in a experience rather than what we think.
Yeah, sometimes it transcends words, doesn't it? An experience, you can't put it into words.
James, good word. Transcends.
I've got plenty of that, mate.
Transcends the quantum ether of the subliminal mind.
Oh, nice.
Whatever that means. But
well, I don't know where that came from. That was from the subliminal neocortex that surrounds your infinite brain.
Should we see what Jesus had to say, James?
Why not?
You know,
That's maybe where we should have started, but let's bring him in.
Well, come on now, Jesus.
Has he made a comment in the
apparently he's back. He's back. He's here. I'm not religious. It could be Muhammad, it could be Jesus. It's whatever you want. Buddha.
Okay.
So
all
Jesus,
right,
I've put in ChatGPT, influential people and the meaning of life. So Jesus Christ, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. I don't know if that's the meaning, but maybe that is that a process meaning, would you say? It's good. It is good advice though, isn't it, James? I like that.
You can't go wrong with being nice to your neighbor, right? And if you can sort of see him as you would see yourself, then there's empathy, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah. Is the love your Lord or your God? Is that like gratitude? Is meaning in is the gratitude for being here the meaning? Maybe.
I think if you can come at life through gratitude, you can't go far wrong.
Yeah. Sometimes gratitude only comes with contrast though, isn't it? You have to sometimes if you experience a hell of a lot of challenge, then the gratitude on the other side of that can be enormous. You just don't seem to get one without the other, do you, in life?
It was interesting.
Yin and yang.
Yeah. What was I watching? It was Rich Roll's video that he put out on LinkedIn, actually. And I listened to his podcast. I haven't listened to this particular one. And I forget the name of the guy who was the guest, which would have been really good for this particular segment, but I know it was Rich Roll.
David Shark, I think it was.
Was it? Is he like a university lecturer?
He invented he named the shark, didn't he? Is it that guy?
Or David Shark? That's very that's egotistical, right? To name the shark after yourself. Anyway, I digress. So this guy was saying that he teaches his students to write down something that happened to them, which they would consider to be, an adverse event, let's say, something that went wrong, that they were unhappy about, that was upsetting. And then he told them within that notebook, so it's like a journal, to leave then 2 lines underneath. So then to come back, say a month later, to say then how they feel about that event a month later. And then let's say 2 months or 3 months later, they then wrote on the second line down how it had had a positive impact on their life. So it's these situations that you're in that at the time feel completely devastating. It's, break up with a partner, your business failing, an argument with somebody, all those. At the time, it's like, oh God, this is horrendous, a
worst
death
thing ever,
whatever. And then you look back later and go, oh, that actually started off this series of events that led to this really positive outcome. Now, sometimes it's really hard to identify that, but I think if you kind of sit down and go, you know what, COVID, as horrendous as it was, and as devastating it was for so many people, there was some positives that came out of it. Depending on your circumstances.
Depending on your circumstances, yeah.
Just depending on your circumstances. But if you can look at those kind of adverse events and go, well, that actually led to, it was terrible at the time, it was devastating, but actually I then met this person or I then managed to get, you were talking about Nano earlier, and I was talking to Ness as well about the people that she works with, that people have come from an environment that is, really hard. And they're now in an environment that to other people would seem hard, but because they've had that
exposure,
different experience and exposure, that actually this is amazing.
It's easy.
And I get paid for it. And I get paid decent. It's not only that working conditions are better. So it's all these kind of perspectives you can take on it and say, well, what I've come from was really bad. And it was, moving country, speaking a different language, all those things go back to your point. But like, this is amazing. So on the other side of adversity, getting outside again of your comfort zone, we all know about that. That's where the good stuff happens, whether you believe that or you don't believe that. But it just seems to be that if you can reflect on the stuff that's happened to you that at the time was traumatic, actually leads to some positive outcomes.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, James, because in terms of meaning, we seem to be directed by challenge. Life seems to be a challenge, doesn't it? I don't know anybody who's escaped challenge in their life.
No.
And even if they've got, to middle-aged or in their 50s and they say nothing's happened, it normally comes. I haven't seen anybody who's escaped quite a big challenge.
No, nobody's getting away with that.
So what does that mean, James? What does that mean for meaning? Is this like an earth school? Is it a lessons thing? Are we here to learn something? Is it just as plain as procreation and survival?
Well, do we boil it down to its essence? It's, you think about the drive. There's a drive to procreate, a drive to keep the species going. That's innate. That's fundamental.
Unless you're gay or you're not even into that.
Well, no, I mean but there's still a drive to be sexually active, and that sexually active is obviously to do with reproduction in whatever direction you go in with that.
Isaac Newton wasn't, James. I've read about Isaac Newton, the most
was he asexual
guy. Yeah, never no women, no guys. Some of these real smart cookies.
Yeah,
there's quite a few of them that are like non-sexual.
But they are in the minority, though, mate. I think we should say, in the grand scheme of things, they are in the minority.
They are in the minority, yeah, without a doubt.
But
is this the censor, James? Do you reckon this whole procreation seems to be more of a evolutionary process, does it? Does the world care if humans don't make it? There would be some other molecules or some other, crocodiles, alligators, what
cockroaches.
Rats is full of rats and cockroaches.
Utopia.
Does that matter? Does that matter?
Well, I think we've got this, and again, you kind of come down to this desire to survive. This thing within us that at any cost we want to survive. And then throw into the mix, the desire to commit suicide. So you've got these kind of two.
That's a real conundrum, isn't it?
And we're the only species that willingly or willfully commit suicide.
Yeah. That's a conundrum.
So, so in terms of being sentient and having those kind of thoughts and ruminating and considering stuff that hasn't happened yet, and that being part of your consciousness, and that being worse than survival, is pretty profound, isn't it? So meaning,
dying's not the worst thing that can happen to you in your life, is it? It's far from far from the worst thing that can happen to you. It's that's why they keep people alive when they do bad things in prison, because actually being alive and suffering could be a lot worse than dying.
Yeah, for some it's that sweet release, isn't it?
It could be a release. It could be, even if you was captured by an enemy and tortured, you'd rather be dead, wouldn't you? Than
I think
prolonging that pain.
Yeah, this is a cheery subject for a Monday, mate, isn't it? I thought we'd start the week off.
This is about the sales, James. You got to get once you're doing those monthly, quarterly reviews that are coming up, you really got to question the meaning of what the hell you're doing. And we need it right now, James, because there's a revolution on the horizon. People are struggling, and I think we just need to take a step back as society and think, what's the point here? What's progress, James? What does progress mean? What is the meaning of life? Where are we going? Are we here to create, progress, explore, or are we here to pay off debt
Yeah.
on
And do
mortgages and
you
get a
think
house?
do you think that we are all in blissful ignorance, that we don't want to consider those type of existential questions? What's your view? Do you think that people want to know, they don't want to know, they just want to get on with it?
I think most people are in survival mode. So you
Yeah.
don't really get people to this stage. It's more unlikely unless they've been through some major life challenges and they've had to review their lifestyle to think, man, I need to change this. This is not good. Like somebody's got ill, they've had a breakdown, or you've made your money and now you're a little bit thinking, man, that didn't really do what I thought it was going to do. Now I've got time, options, and I still feel a void. What's the meaning of this? Do I double down? Do I need another 10 million? What's that going to do for me? What am I doing this for? What's progress mean? And then you have to start questioning bigger things, really. I think we're going to have to, like I've said before, Elon Musk said it, we'll reach a crisis of meaning when robots and automation AI will be able to displace many jobs. Yeah, there are going to be some jobs that will stay, but why should having a job be the center of people's lives? The only thing that people are saying is because it gives them a sense of meaning, which brings us back to what is that meaning? Is it to belong? Is it, if you're a dustman and you're getting meaning from that and a robot can do the same thing, what's the mechanism of the meaning? Is it just to feel like you're useful in a community because it's like an ancestral thing?
Or
Yeah,
it's
if you're not
I guess you're contributing to something.
If you're not contributing, then you're basically sort of a parasite. You might feel like some type of parasite to your community, and then you might be shunned. Maybe it's some deep rooted fear of being a burden and adding no value. I think maybe with old people, I don't know if it's true, but when they had reached a certain age and they wasn't, as valuable to the group and more of a hindrance, they would sort of just walk off into the woods and die because it was more of a hassle for the group and harder. That was sort of a respected thing to do. I don't know if I've just made that up completely, but I've seen that somewhere.
No, it's a tribal, it's more kind of like ancient civilizations, and I think there are some tribes still in the world, probably Amazonian or something like that. I don't know. But it would be,
because that's what you would do with your grandparents. Did you send your grandparents off into the Southampton woods, James?
There are some woods in Southampton, to be fair.
You just sent them into a bush.
To find the nearest one.
Just kick them into a bush.
I'll be back in a minute. But no, but it is a thing. It is a thing, and you can understand why, because it is the resources. And at a certain age, I think it's probably, our life expectancy was around about between 35 to 45.
Yeah.
So then when you look at kind of childbearing age of sort of, maybe 12, 13, and then you get past your sort of useful stage, and then you become a burden, and you'd be sort of, sent off into the wilderness. And that was it. You were done. And then the next, so you're basically, it was survival of the fittest, making room for the next generation to come through, so that they then had access to what they needed to be able to then provide for the next generation. And this cyclical thing would go on for millennia. So, but it's interesting, from that as well, these kind of rites of passage that we were talking about a couple of sessions ago, that sort of sense of meaning around, the transition from adolescent to adult. that we don't really have those in Western culture. There's still, again, tribes that will send their young boys, and there's also ceremonies for girls as well in terms of their sexual maturity, etc., that they will send them out into the wilderness and go through a series of challenges and rituals, like piercing of the skin and killing a bear or whatever.
Rite of passage,
rite of passage. Yeah. So, and that then has that delineation between being a child to an adult. So adolescent moving up, and that's like you've made that transition. Here we're finding a way. There's no, like the Jewish community, there's the bar mitzvah. I don't know what there is with the Christian faith and what other faiths do or communities do, but there doesn't seem to be this.
Well, we've got it here, James, talking about it. We've got Buddha, we've got some Taoism, some Hinduism, and a bit of Islam on here. So we'll go through those. But I think that's a good point that you've put there, James, about that transition from the child to an adult. What I'm thinking that represents is possibly the meaning of responsibility. I know Jordan Peterson talks about it a lot as well. Can you only feel meaning when you've got responsibility? Maybe that's why they say children is part of that, strong meaning. Because I did a bit of a thought experiment, as you do while I was...
As is your want.
I was just, trimming my beard, and I thought, John, let's do a thought experiment, So
Which bit did you trim? I'm just trying to...
I don't know, the sideburns a little bit. But here we go, before I forget it. So let's say people say children are the meaning. They're the meaning of your world. They are meaning procreation. You love your children. Let's say your wife gives birth. I'm Dr. John. I take the baby away straight away.
It's frightening. Yep, go on.
It's frightening. I give you back a different baby. Looks similar, but you haven't got a clue that I've swapped the babies. Now you're bringing up this baby as your own. I never tell you. Then what would you say about the meaning? Because then you think that this is not your, what people would call flesh and blood. It's not your genetics, but you're going to love this child like it's your own because you believe it's your own and you know no different. So where does the switch in meaning, where's the meaning coming from then? Is it the responsibility of the child? Is it loving and caring for another person?
Yeah, I think it's hardwired, isn't it? But I'd argue
it's not about the flesh and blood, though, is it, James? Because you don't know, or is it?
I mean, a completely unethical but fascinating experiment to do is let's go and see what, whether you would cotton on. I mean, the obvious ones are the kind of, the lack of family resemblance would be one of them. But I know this.
But let's say I set this all up. It was with your doppelganger. You've got two doppelgangers. I give you the baby. It's relatively, you can't really tell.
Okay, so we've got to set the parameters for this. I don't want to be too pedantic.
Yeah, you're testing my thought experiment, James. I'm not going to let you into my thought experiments anymore.
I'm incredibly apologetic. Sorry about that.
I'm testing the parameters of your mind, James. Let's expand this to think. What is it? What's the meaning then? If you can't differentiate if it's your flesh and blood or not, or will people say your intuition that you can? Maybe there's this telepathic intuition that that there's something not quite.
Probably be on again, I don't want to undermine the hypothesis here, but there's probably going to be some sort of pheromone that's released by that. Well, there is. I know there is between the mother and the baby.
You think the baby's wearing perfume and that's going to be the differentiator?
A little bit of links. It's the cologne effect.
Yeah.
Just as
That
it comes out.
musk. Africa. That Africa
Yeah.
doesn't smell right.
Something off. There's definitely something off. So yeah, but mate, I mean, this again. I don't want to be pedantic
You are pedantic, James.
by just
And
smashing
you haven't answered the question.
your hypothesis into pieces.
So really, maybe it's about it could be the meaning of responsibility. I think Jordan Peterson talks a lot about responsibility and that being the meaning in your life. You reach different points when you do sort of. I regularly, when I go for a walk, look into the sky and think, what the fuck's going on? This is weird. When I'm going everywhere I go, I'm looking around thinking, what the hell is this thing? Is it a simulation? I look in the sky, it's infinite black universe. What the hell is that? How can we be going 67,000 miles an hour around a bloody hot ball of gas? It's just weird, James.
But
and then
this is the
and then
thing.
in
It's like
between
the
that,
Matrix.
people are saying, do your emails, get your friggin' targets in. I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, look up to the sky. What the hell is going on here? This is crazy.
It's the astronaut effect, isn't it? Of going up to space and seeing the Earth as this tiny little blue marble.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, well, that kind of puts it into perspective a bit. That actually,
my
if you
mind,
zoom
we don't
out,
do that
it's like,
enough, James.
It was like you remember the film Men in Black, and right at the end, that's this is the situation we're in. It's like it's a locker, and inside that locker, it's an entire universe.
It's a entire universe, yeah.
And these, somebody flicking little marbles around with this giant kind of finger thing.
Yeah.
Sums it up perfectly, doesn't it? You think, well, we're all, an infinitesimal speck in the grand scheme of things.
Exciting, though, the unknown,
but
the meaning, even not knowing it, and just thinking, why would we just spend our time to, pay to? It's like paying to sit in a cave. You've got all of this world, this amazing, this sky exploration, creativity, and we're paying debt to basically sit within four walls. Really, if on first principles, you're basically staying warm and you're protecting yourself from the outside, aren't you?
Yeah.
So I was thinking to myself, okay, why don't we just create a suit? There is no house. You just have this little, you press a button and this little bubble just comes over you. Done. You're like a pigeon, James. You're free. There's no mortgage. There's none of this. You go wherever you want.
Can I be an eagle as opposed to a pigeon?
You're definitely a pigeon, James.
Oh, I got hundreds of pigeons.
You've got the grey.
Garden.
You got the grey and the black.
No, I'm going to be. I don't care what
pigeon.
you say. I don't care what you say. I'm going to be an eagle. So there.
A bald eagle.
Bald eagle.
A bald eagle.
I'm majestic. An albatross. Yeah. Oh, come on.
Albatross. Jesus. A peregrine falcon. We could go on forever. And now, isn't the world amazing, James? Isn't there? Doesn't it just the diversity of people, of animals, of things? Isn't it just weird and crazy, but at the same time so mundane in a very strange way?
I mean, it's the reality you build for yourself. It's whatever that reality needs to be for you, doesn't it? Do you not create your own reality to an extent?
I think maybe you do, James. Yeah, if you overcome fears and create your own realities. But then again, are you is it the born into circumstance sometimes, and you're sort of on this survival journey at different stages, like we said, with a sort of inherited wealth or positioning, or if I was a black woman maybe in the 1950s, I'm gonna have completely different opportunities than a white guy now, aren't I?
Yeah.
I could have been born into slavery. I could have been anything,
totally.
Really.
Well, I think, and I do think about that. I think about, people that were born into slavery, and living a life of servitude. And there were, I don't know how many years, the kind of the slavery years, but you think about
I
generation
think it's a
after
few
generation.
centuries, isn't it? I think it was a.
It
I'll
was
do
it was a
the
long time.
the
It was a long
research,
time.
but yeah,
Do
it's
the
a long
research.
time,
Do the research.
yeah.
But it was like when you think about generation after generation after only knowing what it was to be a slave, and all of that being passed down from parent to child, grandparent to parent to child, and centuries of that being your reality of thinking, and the meaning that you get from knowing that you are a slave. And there's no chance of that changing. And not only the chance of that changing during your lifetime, but your grandparents' lifetime, your child's lifetime, their child's life. So generation after generation after generation of that not changing and knowing no different. This is a human being existing in the world, like you and I right now, of knowing that. That is their reality. And their reality is probably the field to the house, or to the bunker where they were living, the log cabin or whatever, and then back again. And that was it.
Yeah.
Your entire existence.
It's just hard to comprehend, isn't it, really, in this? But maybe we're living our own form.
And
100%.
Everything we take, the liberties that we take for granted now, the freedoms that we take for granted, and you can understand how those are taken for granted because it's our lived experience. We've never known what it is to be in slavery, you and I. The majority of people we know will never know what it is to be in slavery. We have modern slavery now. It still exists.
Yeah.
So to be transported from one brothel to another, from one place as a chattel, a piece of meat at the service of whoever, and you have no control, you have no agency, and that could be your life until maybe you're killed, murdered in that.
It's hard to comprehend.
So this then starts to kind of formulate, well, of all of these situations that you find yourself on a daily basis, if you can compare it to others and go, I haven't got it that bad, really, have I? But in the moment, this is happening to you. So it's not to minimize it. It's not to devalue it, but it's like, it's bigger picture stuff of thinking and being curious about the universe and going, well, what could have been my situation? And I'm quite grateful, actually. I was born into the family I was born into, as whatever that trauma was that I experienced, that you experienced, and all that sort of thing. Actually, it could have been a shitload worse.
A lot worse. Yeah, you can see why they sort of moved towards the religion. I know religion was sometimes imposed on them, but you need sometimes some type of faith, don't you, in those situations? It's like the Viktor Frankl book, The Man's Search for Meaning. So all he had left was his choice of perspective. That was the only thing that they couldn't take
away from him was what was up
that
here.
When all of these bad things and your parents are being murdered in front of you, and all your siblings are dying, and that was the thing that stopped him going crazy, that just belief and his perspective.
And also the book The Gift by Edith Eger. She was 16 years old in Auschwitz. And again, she then went on to become, I think she's 97 now, maybe, and became a psychologist. And she just knew what she needed to do to survive. So literally, she sort of arrived at the camp. Mother and father were taken away literally within minutes of arriving into the gas chambers. And that was her and her sister on her own. She said the thing that helped her survive was that the fact she was in love with a boy at the time and just wanted to get through this, to be able to be reunited with him. So it's this higher power thing. I think there needs to be something that you've got that's so desirable, so all-consuming, that you can come through any level of adversity. Therein lies the meaning, I guess.
Yeah, because it's just
whatever
hard
that
to
looks like
grab
for
your
you.
head around, isn't it? Once you see like a child who's got cancer, or you think life can be so unfair in so many ways, and you start to question, what's the meaning for that child who's just been born into suffering and died? Yeah, other people might be able to gain the meaning from it because it changes everybody else's perspective. But, have they just been sent as a sacrifice to show everybody else? Is that the story of Jesus? Maybe I don't know, to be honest, James.
Right.
But it does really start to make you question, doesn't it? In terms of Buddha, he's put the meaning of life to end suffering by overcoming desire and attaining enlightenment, nirvana. End suffering by overcoming desire. So that's sort of a detachment from material world, would we say?
Well,
Overcoming the
we'd say
desire for things.
that meaning is, to an extent, I think, stimulated by desire, isn't it? It depends on what the desire is. I mean, you can sort of
is desire
well, if you-
bad? Is a desire a
well,
negative thing?
I think we're hardwired for desire. I think that's in terms of the amygdala and dopamine and all that sort of thing is desire to be able to see some level of future.
Can be exciting. It can be one of the joys of life, a desire, can't it?
And again, you talk about
Jesus, are you questioning
desire.
Buddha now, James? You've kicked your grandparents into a bush. You've become
I
a
didn't.
pigeon,
You did, to be fair.
and now
I've become an eagle, bald-headed, albeit.
And now you're kicking Buddha.
I'm questioning. I just question.
Yeah. Buddha would approve, James. Buddha would approve.
I am the stress tester.
Yeah.
I'm the bald-headed eagle stress tester.
I've been getting enough hate mail recently. We don't need any more, do we?
No.
So we've got a bit of, is it Taoism? How do you pronounce it? Laozi. Is it Lazi?
Taoist.
Taoism. Align with the Tao, the natural flow of the universe, and live in harmony with it. So that's we seem to be some type of energy and passion and energy, don't we?
More energy.
We're sort of vibrational energy flowing through the cosmos of time. I don't even know if time exists. That's a different one. But we seem to be these particle potentiality 99%.
Just looking for a bit of paper, then I was going to fold it. So yeah,
into a pigeon.
That's origami. No, it was that. It was the.
Leave the pigeons alone.
I was going to go quantum physics on your ass then, in terms of time.
Yeah. Apparently, it's the whole 99.9% potentiality. Everything is a potential. It's not really happening. It's happening in two places at once, or some. Yeah. It's some mind-blowing stuff, isn't it? Quantum. We got the Newtonian physics of the.
You've got a dot on one side, then. So on a flat piece of paper, two dots, and then you roll and then the two dots kind of align.
Is it this split experiment, isn't it? The double split experiment.
Yeah. No idea, mate.
Yeah, that's what
I'm not going to make out that I know quantum physics.
They shoot something through this board, and then on the other side, it's like a predicting thing. I can't remember what it was, but it's weird anyway. They don't really, even the quantum physicists are confused. It doesn't really match up too well with Newtonian, like the laws of the universe, because it seems we're running on some type of mathematical laws, doesn't it? That's the language of the universe and physics, the speed of light, that type of thing. And then you can predict things once you know these laws. But then you get the quantum side that seems to throw some of that out the window, doesn't it? So whether we are in some computer simulation and this is just some teenager having a laugh in his bedroom,
we're not actually doing this right now.
No, this is like a game of Sims in some future reality somewhere.
Yeah.
So, and he's created all these characters, and you're just playing a character, and is there any meaning of you playing a computer game? Don't know. It's all pre-orchestrated, the computer game, isn't it? The computer game's already set up. You pass the levels, or maybe War of Worldcraft, or whatever those things are. Warcraft. World. Wow.
World,
Just call it
World of
wow.
Warcraft.
Craft. There's something craft anyway.
You weren't ever meant to pronounce that. Just
Yeah, you can tell. You can tell I'm not a gamer.
No.
I don't play computer games at all, to be honest. But
yeah.
So we got Hinduism. Fulfill your dharma.
Yes.
Not your Jeffrey Dahmer.
No, that's a different.
I don't think people want to do that, do they? So worship and submit to. No, this is this not the fulfill your dharma selflessly, leading to moksha, liberation. Hinduism. Fulfill your
it's like
dharma
the book. There's a book called the Bhagavad Gita, and it's. I've read a little bit of it. I've not done an exhaustive study, but there's a fair amount about not attaching too much emphasis to the outcome. So it's like the fruits of your labors. If you're focused on the fruits of your labors, then you'll struggle. So it's about
focus on the process.
Being focused on the process and being of service.
I like that. Yeah. Growth, contribution, service, maybe tapping into that intuition. I think a lot of people know when they're off track. If you're depressed and anxious all the time, or something's not quite right, I think we've got this internal alarm system, like collectively. That's why I see like this mental health stuff as sometimes a good thing. It's sort of a warning sign. Maybe we all need to like make some systemic changes. So I like that, James. In terms of Prophet Muhammad, which one, James?
You like that one?
I like you, James.
Oh, you like me? Of course, that goes without saying, mate. But I was just trying to figure out that was a Hinduism, wasn't it, that you liked?
That's a Hinduism, the whole Dharma and moksha liberation. We got Muhammad. We've got to worship and submit to Allah and live righteously to attain paradise. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Paradise. I don't know what paradise is because I don't know if you can have the good without the contrast of bad. You don't know what good is, do you, if you haven't got bad? So it's one of those. It's one of those real dilemmas.
Like Viking Valhalla.
Yeah.
So if you're a good Viking, you go to Valhalla. You'll drink mead and have lots of maidens, apparently.
In paradise. But even that, that can get boring, can't it? After a while. How much sex can you have? It's,
How much mead?
How much mead and sex can one man have before you're just like, oh man, I'm done with this.
I'm done. I'm full up.
This is the nightmare now. The paradise, that's the thing, isn't it? What do they call it? The hedonistic treadmill or hedonic treadmill, when you have too much of the good thing and you always get used to it. It's like the Ferrari after 2 weeks is just another car.
Well, again,
the
dopamine system is geared towards needing more and more and more to get the same level of hit.
Yeah.
So the stimulation, we've talked about drugs, we talked about pornography, we talked about anything that's going to stimulate and give you that dopamine hit. If you continue on that sort of trajectory, it'll sort of start to drop. So if you kind of plot it on a graph, you go along for a bit and then you get this natural drop off.
Yeah.
So it's like I need a little bit of a blip here just to kind of take me up to get the same level of dopamine I was getting back here somewhere. If I keep doing that particular behavior, I need another little boost to get me up, to get me up, to get me up. So it's
like
just
the alcohol dependency, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're starting to get used to it. So we go into, I'm going to reel through some of these because they are quite interesting and I'm interested in reading it as well. So I'll just quickly read through the philosopher's view on the meaning of life. So we've got Socrates: an unexamined life is not worth living. Meaning comes from questioning self-knowledge. Questioning and self-knowledge. So meaning comes from being curious and understanding thyself. Yeah. We like that. We've got some big things coming in the future with this. We won't say too much now. We got Plato, to seek truth and align oneself with the realm of ideal forms. Seeking truth is an interesting one, isn't it? Is that an intuition, a truth, an honesty of the self? Is the meaning found on the path of truth?
I think if we don't just go into default mode of acceptance, we just accept what we're being told.
Yeah.
Question. Don't always accept.
Like it. Aristotle, eudaimonia. Good word, isn't it?
Eudaimon.
Eudaimonia. Flourishing is achieved through virtue and rational activity. Interesting. Epicurus, happiness is found
I'm not
in
a subscriber to that, I have to say.
Yeah, the whole rationality is a little bit...
It's a bit too simplistic, though. I'm not
too simplistic.
Not a fan.
Yeah. Epicurus, happiness is found in simple pleasures, friendship, and the absence of pain. Nietzsche, there is no inherent meaning. We must create our own meaning through will to power. Nietzsche was a bit of a wind-up. I've read quite a lot of Nietzsche. He's like he was the clickbait of his time.
Yeah.
Nietzsche.
Yeah.
He's like God.
Freud
What
was
did he say?
interesting
God
as well.
is dead and stuff like that, or something's dead. Didn't he say Nietzsche? But if you look deeply at his work, he is a bit of a wind-up merchant, to be honest. Quite a clever guy.
Yeah, but wind up.
He's a wind-up, yeah. Existence, Jean-Paul Sartre. Existence precedes
Sartre.
essence. Is it Sartre, yeah?
Jean-Paul Sartre.
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 Existence precedes essence. We define our own meaning through choices. But what about the illusion of choice, James? If you read Sam Harris's book, do we have choice? Is it just a paradox? No, it's not a paradox choice. That's like infinite choice. But is there an illusion of choice? They think that you've already made up your mind and they can test it before it's already happened. So maybe it's fate. Maybe you're always doing your best 100% of the times, and you just wouldn't have changed anything because you would have done it if you could, wouldn't you?
I mean, the thing that fascinates me as well is like the language we use. We're going right back to language again where we started. Was in conversations, you'll find that you're using phrases that you've heard. And we do this, from Shakespeare through things that become part of the vernacular.
Yeah.
But you'll get people that are on, social media, podcasts, whatever. They'll say a thing or they've written a book. And we'll then start to adapt that language. So like 1,000 True Fans, for example, Kevin Kelly.
Yeah.
Things that we've learned that we then start to adopt into our own, like it was ours.
Groupthink, vernacular stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
And because it's been published in a book or because a lot of people have been talking about it, we then assume, oh, that's the new way. The 5 a.m. club, the this, the that, the whatever. And
like a piece of art that everyone starts to value and appreciate when really like a 5-year-old could have done it.
Over time, everything starts to shift in terms of belief systems and the language that we use based on, what we hear the most of or what gets the most validation. Because again, getting a sense of the world and what's right, what's wrong, what works, what doesn't work. But then is that, as you say, that groupthink that we just adopt these things as read. That we don't then go, well, is that really what I want to do?
Culture,
because everybody else is doing it, then I should do it.
Yeah.
Take, for example, I don't know if you have seen it, but the series Traitors is a great.
Don't watch TV, James. I'm too busy researching.
Okay. It's one of the few things that I watch on TV. But The Traitors, for example, is a great indication in terms of groupthink and how people make a decision based on what the group is engaging in. And there'll be one or two outliers that will make a decision based on what they've seen, evidence, etc., and won't care what the rest of the group think. And there's others that are going, oh, yeah, but I can't vote for that person I thought it was because everybody else is thinking it's that person.
Is this like a real? Is it like a Big Brother thing?
Yeah, it's a reality game.
A reality game. Okay, interesting. Yeah, they're quite a good psychological experience. Those ones, aren't they?
They are. They are.
We'll quickly whiz through these, James, and then we'll wrap up. We can talk about any subject for ages.
I tell you what,
can't we?
that's the
we
challenge.
Could do another hour.
We put it out. Well, let's put it out to the public to actually say, have we got any questions, by the way? Has anybody commented on our ramblings today about the meaning of life?
James, not today. No one wants to hear about the meaning of life on a Monday afternoon.
No, mate, that's fair enough. That is fair
but
enough.
I quite liked it.
But there's the challenge. I think we should get people to go, right, talk about this. Go
straight off the bat
for an hour. Talk about it.
We could do anything. In terms of the last bit, James, I'll reel off the scientist thinkers. Carl Sagan, we are a way for the cosmos to know itself. We're like the universe looking back on itself. Meaning comes from exploration and knowledge. I'm definitely on the exploration side. I think a human is about adventure, exploration, curiosity. You live in the question of the meaning, not the end goal of purpose, but to live purposefully. Wow, that sounded quite deep, didn't it, James?
That did sound. And just as a side note, we will be exploring that not this Wednesday coming, the Wednesday after that. And I shoehorn the word explore into it.
Yeah, we got some great guests coming on in this one. Stevie Hawkins. Work gives life meaning, and curiosity is what drives us forwards. So I think work's super. If you have to work to make money, it is kind of important, isn't it? If you spend a third of your life doing something, between a third of your life asleep, a third of your life at work, a third of your life, watching TV.
Yeah.
Viktor Frankl, meaning comes from finding purpose even in suffering.
Yeah.
Logotherapy. I think he's come up with his own therapy. Logotherapy.
Yeah.
Interesting. Then we've got Dostoevsky, the Russian author, wasn't he? The meaning of life is found in love, suffering, and redemption. Joseph Campbell, the hero's journey. Yeah, we've got life has no single meaning, but we find fulfillment through the hero's journey. Alan Watts. I think Alan Watts is him and his wife, isn't it? But I think Alan gets a lot of the credit.
I haven't heard. Yeah, I haven't heard.
You know Alan Watts? It's quite famous. You'll probably know his voice. He sounds like you.
Does he?
Life is not a problem to be solved, but a game to be played. The meaning is the experience itself. That's what I just said, Alan. Why is Alan copying me?
He's copying you, mate.
I don't like that. Mark Twain, the two most important days in your life. Do you know Mark Twain? I don't even know what Mark Twain did.
He gets a lot. He does get a lot of attention, doesn't he, Mark?
He must have been good. Maybe he was a LinkedIn article writer.
Well, that's another thing. If everybody quotes Mark Twain, and I'm not a fan of those quotes. Statistics and quotes, not a fan.
Maybe they'll quote John Hastings one day, James. Do you think so? John Hastings said.
The ego.
I'm dissolving the ego, James. Mark Twain said, the two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. Oh, that's a good sentence, though, isn't it?
Out the park.
Twainy. Oscar Wilde, the aim of life is self-development, to realize one's nature perfectly. The Dalai Lama, the purpose of life is to be happy and to help others achieve happiness. Steve Jobs, your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. And there we go. That pretty much
wraps it up.
Wraps up the meaning of life. James, I appreciate you, sir, and I hope that was valuable. Somebody's going to watch this and it's going to blow their mind. It might not be now. It could be 5 years down the line, James.
We'll bury it in the time capsule.
Yeah. When the revolution is full swing, they're going to come back to this video and think, wow, these guys
were... They knew what they were talking about.
They were ahead of their time, these guys, ahead of their time. No, but thank you, everybody, for listening. We're going to be back.
Been a pleasure talking to you, mate.
I like to learn, James. I'm curious. And now I'm going to go for a walk and I'm going to look at the sky and wonder why. That
Right.
rhymes.
And avoid the hedges.
Yeah.
That's the piece of
I'm
advice
gonna
today.
pick old
Don't-
people out of bushes.
Don't go
That's
near
what I'm
that
gonna do.
hedge. Yeah.
Okay then, peeps. We'll take care. We'll see you on Wednesday. We're going to be covering James's favorite topic, land. Southampton land. James is going to take
Wow.
it back. Have you got a pitchfork, James?
I've got a pitchfork and a torch.
Perfect. Helmet?
Grab your torches and your pitchforks.
You got a little
We're going to
helmet
go
as
get
well,
a
haven't you?
monster. Hmm?
Have you got a
What?
little helmet? We're going to leave it there.
Neither confirm nor deny. But you are taking the pith. There you go. Dad joke to finish. On that note,
Take
bye-bye.
care, guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.